I'm really excited anyway. I'm sort of trying to retain my excitement a little bit at seeing everybody here. Some of you I haven't seen for very many years, and partly it's of course the excitement about seeing people is heightened because of the last 2 years of COVID and not being able to see people at all. But it's also just that sense of a coming together, and coming together at a really, I think, important time. It's really nice to see everyone.
This just a meeting of the alumni. I think we are on the cusp of possibly a moment in human rights movement in our region where we can start a whole new program. It might be something to, for us to start reflecting on in this 2, 3, 4 days as to see how we revamp or reset the human rights agenda kind of thing.
We've got a great group of people right from the beginning, which I think is extraordinary, all the way through to our most recent program. And in that we've got so much experience and reflections from different human rights issues, different human rights struggles, responding to different situations on the ground. And I think that's part of our challenge as an organisation, thinking ahead, is how do we draw on that collective knowledge, that collective wisdom, in a way that helps people who are deep in those struggles now.
Do a deep dive into yourself. Start talking about your experience and how you have looked at the whole notion of bringing people together to learn something, to train, to build capacity and things like that. And what was that experience for you? Right? Let's talk on our tables in terms of what it has meant to you.
Has come up with few recommendations. The first one is that DTP to consider changing from training to other programs, such as sharpening the communication to young people and analyzing the nexus of human rights with other rights. For example, in the Philippines, she mentioned in the health sector, like the brain drain that are actually also making the people in the community are not having access to sufficient access to healthcare and so on.
We are living in this era. Maybe we need to leverage on like blockchain and this decentralized organization. How to make this alumni active using technology, leveraging based on your expertise, where you are, whether you have money or not, whether you have skill or not, how we can maximize that. And also decentralizing, breaking down the training on the very ground level, not just having a training but supporting the struggle. Example, in Papua New Guinea there's a plantation workers struggle that they need strategy, they need support, business and human rights. You pump your energy and skills there, do something there and support that media strategy.
Lots of feedback around the kind of fluidity of what a alumni archive or database would actually look like moving forward, and how we can successfully create that network. And looking at technology and recognizing that technology is not politically neutral, and how can we make this kind of hypothetical network accessible to all people, including DTP participants, and who is a DTP participant and who isn't was a bit of a question that we asked. And moving forward, are we kind of keeping resources within this room, or are we trying to get them out even further?
30 years ago, human rights was an emerging thing in our region kind of thing, right? And since then, maybe in the 30 years of the 3000, some went on to do portfolio building as well. In that sense of certificate after certificate after certificate, and we have lost something in the 3000. But there is a residue of the 3000. and somebody called it the alumni and how to connect and things like that. So that would be really good to see how to continue that kind of thinking. The other thing what was triggered was, and I thought it was nice, is there are so many movements, the groundswell of resistance. How do we connect with that? How do we connect with the groundswell of resistance?
Creating a space for people to have dialogue around implementation seems to me one of the opportunities that there is. We don't maybe 30 years ago, there was still the argument about human rights, and those arguments continue a little bit. We don't need to have the argument about human rights. Are they there? Do they exist? Do they belong to everyone? We assume those arguments are won. And yes, there are lots of discussions still around intersectionality, and lots of and it's a live and dynamic movement in terms of our understanding of human rights growing all the time. But the fundamentals of human rights in the Universal Declaration, we don't have to argue about anymore. The issues are about how are they implemented? Where is the political will to implement them? And that's where people's movements come in. That's where people who can advocate smartly and in solidarity with each other can make the progress. And then for us, what's our role? What's our contribution in that? DTP, I think. Working with others, that's what we have to work out. So it's not just training, but it's the transformative. How do we try and make the training transformative, and not just for individuals, but also for movements? And I think that's where we are wanting the conversation to go.
How has this regional trainings actually sparked some local action or sparked some local movement? So you may have heard a story. Yeah, like some of you shared, oh, I went this, like she shared, right? I learned this and I did that. So it's more, if you can remember either yourself or colleagues who have said, oh, I went there and then now I brought this part. Even a small component is enough. So a quick sharing of that to give us that when we go and send people is not just to go for a holiday in Bali, but actually bring back something for actually our main work on the ground.
The Marriott case where Marriott and other group in business group in Bangladesh, they were planning to start a project, luxury hotel project in Bangladesh, and where the project is now halted. We don't know what's going to happen after which, but DTP, AIPP, people from the ground, and then there's this Business and Human Rights Resource Center. So a lot of this networking, groups who are, working very actively in the context of business and human rights got together, strategize ourselves on who should we reach out to, which special procedures should we reach out to, how do we reach out to a Marriott group, for example, and call for an explanation or justify what they're doing, etc.
This is where maybe partnership was strategic, because this eventually led to us working with our members in Bangladesh for the ratification of the Migrant Workers Convention. So that was something that MFA can directly attribute to a partnership.
After my DTP training, we had that in Timor-Leste, and I was able to visit the courthouses in Timor. It was a huge different situation for me to see, because in Sri Lanka the court system is not in order, or we take around 15 to 20 years to complete one case. But I learned in Timor, it take only 2 years, maximum 2 years to complete one case. There is a timetable, and they give much attention for each case, and they try to complete within 2 months. So this was something very special for me. So I got permission from Patrick and Laurel, and I skipped one day and I visited the courthouses. And then when I came back, I wrote these two ends to situations, and I was able to show the real story of Sri Lanka, the court system, and I documented that.
The first time in 2010. Following it, there was a session where we were taught the right nail, the right hammer, but also the right wall. I remember Patrick would be remembering that particular session. So went back and filed cases, 21 cases of indigenous community, widows of mine workers with the National Human Rights Commission. And after that intervention, the government of Rajasthan had to pay compensation as an ex gratia. Following that, in 2019, we had the first pneumocnosis policy in the country in Rajasthan, in India, which has now compensated about 26,000 people with an approximate amount of 12,000 crore rupees.
I think at that time I had the opportunity together with other participants to visit Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You know, one of the issues is about the Indonesian occupation in Timor-Leste, so they created Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And at that time it's coincided because in Cambodia we also had the extraordinary chambers in the court of Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge Tribunal, to make it short, where crimes exist like over 30 years ago, but then only until 2006 they start the prosecution of the senior leaders of the regime. My learning here was the learning of how the Truth and Reconciliation mandate, but how they address with the victim and reparation programs. When I was at SHRAC, I assist the organizations to deal with victim participation. So I also provide some kind of capacity building on reparation program, but also how to work with victims to do some kind of legal advocacy, making sure that their rights will be respected. And of course, we talked about reparation. It could be only collective and moral reparation, no monetary compensation, because you cannot count 1 million for one death. We cannot count like that. So we advocate for the Khmer Rouge Tribunal to create a collective reparation program through joint actions with others, NGOs in the country, but also with victim association in the country.
I participated in the 3-year drafting and negotiation process of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. So it's now one of the 9 core international human rights treaties, and it's the treaty that had the fastest, it was the fastest process in the United Nations in terms of drafting treaties. And I could say that from my own personal experience, without knowing it, but perhaps after several years reflecting on what happened, the DTP helped me a lot in participating there. And in that process, the UN member states wanted to make it appear that enforced disappearances are a problem of the past, and it's only a problem of Latin America. But the participation of organizations working on enforced disappearances from different other regions, including Asia, debunked that myth that enforced disappearance is just a Latin American phenomenon, and it's a problem of the past.
I remember that the network, Migrant Forum in Asia, one issue we were proud about is when our participation in the crafting of the convention, ILO Convention 189, decent work for domestic workers. So this was really like a learning process for us, both in terms of the processes and how we can use the platform, despite many challenges, because we are not a trade union. Right? So we are doing it at the ILO level, as we are doing it at the regional and also at the country level. So that was something beautiful, you know, and we are able to also relate bilaterally with countries of destination as well. So that's one example. The other one is the crafting of CEDAW Recommendation 26. So we took part in rationalizing the need to come up with a general recommendation that will address the issue of women, migrant workers in low-wage occupation.
Based on what they have discussed, I have actually tried to classify the direct impact that are tangible. It's the ratification of the UN Convention. William mentioned that. Some of you has mentioned the existence of the national laws and policies was also impacted, influenced by the DTP alumni, where you are doing national advocacy on that. And then also prosecution of human rights violator. It's happened because of the DTP alumni also at the national level. And those also impacting to the protection of victim rights. Among others, our colleagues from India mentioned about victim compensation become feasible and possible. So that's because of that. And there are strong social movement, migrants empowerment, and bridging the communications, unions, civil society, maybe government as well here. It's not written, but I assume, so that's what the group has actually mentioned here.
We all come not from zero, right? We're actually already part of the movement and the work. So this is an add-on, a layering, an inspiration, a provocation, a case study, a new experience. So it is a positive push on the journey on. Some suggestions for knowledge and skills that should be prioritized, that's the word. Nothing is bad or good, but what do you think we should push more? Or if there's a gap to add more, if there's too much to reduce more. So that's the kind of comments you can make now based on real experience of DTP program.
I mean, you have to map the knowledge and skills the participants already have, and come up with some kind of continuous needs assessment, overall and individual. The second thing is advocacy strategic or tactics in times of the civic space shrinking and oppressed. So it includes like sleeping with the enemies and building up trust within the mainstream social arena, or exploring potential allies, or neutralizing potential enemies.
Well, I just added on the knowledge. I know that climate justice is already, I think, a plan of DTP based on the survey. But I would also like to add about transitional justice. Because here, among the countries here, we have already experience of countries undergoing authoritarian even until now. But there is also a point in the history that we all start demanding for reparations, demanding for justice, of course. That's the main one. So perhaps the things about to share best practices on how to go about the transitional justice, because there's Cambodia, Indonesia, Philippines.
As an organization, I think to ensure the diplomacy and the advocacy is sustainable, I propose that DTP invest 10% in helping organizations grow also. So not everyone is, has the resource, the power, and the privilege as big networks. Some of us are small, but when we come to DTP, we learn certain skills. But I think it should be a bit more systematically done. So just a small percent, 5 to 10% focus on organizational development.
Most of the activists, NGOs, civil society movement people fail to utilize social media and the new technology, that they are not turning the camera to themselves. And example, you can talk about UN mechanism in 20 TikTok series. No one done that before. So, and also the component of safety security in our work, how we do it safely, securely, do not harm the community we work with and the people we are filming and talking about.
I think that will be a skill that DTP can add into the work of the NGOs to institutionalize gender. So it means that human rights already include gender equality in that, because women are half of the population. Yeah.
As mentioned by Ellen, we do not know how to navigate anymore. We are not interested to navigate, the boomers do not want, but rather to understand these generations. Second is to look human rights at a different angle. We have to be more, as mentioned by my colleague here, when we had this conversation, that the same advocacy but on a different angle.
I always feel on our programs that there are smarter people in the room, there are more experienced people in the room, there are better trainers in the room than we bring as DTP or than we are as DTP. And that's the strength, in a way, I think of DTP, is how we draw on all of that and bring that together and enable that to flourish and come out. And so one of my responses to the ideas that have come up here a little bit is to say that this is not the responsibility of 4 people in the DTP office in Sydney, but it is a collective responsibility in a way for all of us, and we want you to feel it as a collective responsibility. How do we rise to these challenges?
1 and 2, we would like to request you to discuss about the context in Asia in terms of human rights and democracy. So what is the context here in Asia that will serve as the basis and one of the major bases for our capacity building work as DTP. Then table 3 and 4 ask you to identify some objectives based on the needs that were discussed yesterday. What objectives should we have? 5th and the 6th table over there, we would like to request you to identify some indicators of success or yardsticks to make sure that our capacity building activities are indeed responsive to the needs of the individuals, the organization, and our collective work for human rights promotion and defense in Asia.
Is a common thing that we are impacted currently under the development and power.
It's shrinking civic spaces and oppressive regimes. But the problem is, there are not much progress in human rights and democracy, even in times of political progressives.
Participant appreciation, those who are community leader and community engaged, those who are activists there working in the local level, how we can bring them, especially selection process.
More strategic support for activists across regions. The context of this one is that we have a lot of activists from countries that seek asylum to countries within the regions.
I think the exchange information among us about ambassador, because they also shifting within the regions. For example, one country was in Bangkok and then they go to Myanmar, or another political officer from one embassy was in Myanmar and happily they are in Bangkok. Or vice versa for the whole region. And to keep up those names, to keep up referring to each other, I think is very helpful.
I think these are some ideas that can already be used for the planning, for coming up with strategic plans, or if DTP already has strategic plans, then these can further enrich whatever strategic plans there are at the moment.
Gangnam Style.
What is the agenda for DTP alumni? Because some of us engage individually as a group, but it's going to be part of our capacity building program. So far, never. So far, never. Our training has been focusing on mainly the sectoral issues, right? Migration, indigenous, children, which is very important. So are we going to go beyond, because it's an emerging need, So partly networking, partly capacity building.
The first question is, what are the challenge strategies for networking nationally?
what we have found the challenge is basically the common voice. We say that we work together, we have a good networking, we are part of a national or international network, but when we go back to our own country, we can see that there are some gaps between us and we don't have common understanding or common voice, and sometimes we go behind and we don't fall into a track. So sometimes our advocacy or human rights related programs, we cannot do it in a proper way. And we also have identified that some of the organizations have their own priorities, and also the donors, they have their own priorities. Sometimes with the NGOs or CSOs, we move with the donors, and when the fund is or the projects are closed, we just go back to our own situation.
When I say go, no talking, no showing the paper, go. I see there's a let's go. What are you on? Panther, cheetah, tiger, durian, fruits, banana. This idea of this exercise to broaden your horizon. Okay, look beyond your own constituent. See what the other people are working on and see how that work can complement the work that you do. Okay? So look inwards as an individual, as an organization. How are we going to move forward as a DTP alumni?
On networking, so people's expectations or the value that a DTP network can add to the existing work that we're doing is expanding network. I think the feeling that you are not alone, and also building people-to-people solidarity and inclusion, and connects across different sectors, different constituent groups, and mobilizing DTP alumni to build regional network. That's one of the value. So so others are similar to the ones that I read out on solidarity. One is on knowledge hub. So there's a lot of value addition in having a DTP network. So one, I can see that to develop an integrated field-based training module so that can be used by everyone. So, and also looking at some effective training models and to take it beyond from those effective training.
This is easy because I'm asking you what. Now comes the difficult part. How?
How alumni can organize themselves in respective countries to do some action. Example, on the Myanmar situation, if they can send letter of protest or demand to the embassy, they organize themselves, they publicize among the alumni network to do the same thing everywhere in the region.
I think this DTP alumni is a kind of strong pool of advocates. At least some of whom are willing to contribute transnationally. So this alumni can be a basis to building up this kind of network.
We can also propose to DTP website, there's a country page in the DTP page, so that we can easily check who is our friend allies there.
We were proposing depository of all the resources, so not just the name place, but of course including the security aspects to be considered. So if you want to know a particular topic or a particular person or issue, not just the person's or the organization's resource is shared, but also what they have produced over the years, so interventions and things like that. So a hub, formal hub where all this is kept.
The possibility to organize some sort of the mini marathon
for human rights in one of the beaching province in Chonburi with the Burapha University. And we, with the hope that within Merchant we also make use of occasion in order to launch a campaign and getting people more attention on that process. Not just only to get the medal or whatever.
This would be one of the DTP programs that I always remember. Yeah. I can't remember the DTP program I attended, sorry, but I will remember this for sure. Thank you so much.
I'm learning from you as well towards this forum, and maybe next time we can, connect each other in many issues on human rights. I think. Thank you.
Interestingly, to meet up with different generation of alumni, which is for me an aspiration. Also learning from you about the movement on the ground even before us.
We have taken a lot, now it's time to take it forward.
Yeah.
So I really thank you all.
So I'm glad and honored to be here from the 3,200 alumni. We are only 33. So thank you for selecting me.
I think since 1990 until today, every year there has been people, students and our members being trained through DTP, which has contributed, these nuggets of contributions has created a generation of activists in Pax Romana, similar to other organizations. So very much thankful and looking forward to collaborate.
I think we're at a critical point now where we really needed to consult with you all to find out where we need to go as we come out of COVID, as civil society space is shrinking, and there's so many more right-wing governments, dictatorships all popping up in the region. So these 2 days have been really useful for us to work out what is needed in the region. And so I'd like to thank you all for your time, your candor, and your thoughts and contributions to DTP.
I think most important thing for me is that I really glad to meet all of you in different batch and learning a lot from all of you. And I think as an organization that we are working on, AIPP, Asian Indigenous People Pact, I think we are really looking forward to work with diverse issues around your expertise.
I'm really glad to be here as one of the co-collaborators of DTP, and also to meet a lot of the people here who are represented by diverse groups. So we are a lot connected and see that we can collaborate a lot more, like going forward from here.
Thank you very much everyone for bringing me back to the DTP community. And these 2 days full of ideas and inspiration.
The recommendation and suggestion, we can put it into a timeline and see who can take up certain roles to materialize things, can contribute, if we have time and space within organization or as an individual, we can help to support, and also if need more support or capacity, we can fundraise together or trying to contribute to make it happen. Then hopefully things can move forward. Thank you.
I think it's a high time for us or for the alumni to make the youth like us to be part of this struggle as well as to be part of the success. Thank you.
In our alumni and even here, be accountable to one another. So we look at this as a place where people have invested in us, not just as individuals but as a movement, and we have a responsibility to contribute back. But it works always, we hold each other accountable. So thank you everyone.
Some people say human rights is the religion. Human rights is the religion. Some people really think like that. No? But anyway, I think that is also part of our common dream or common commitment to work together. Even though we come from different background and also different situations, but our common commitment is working for human rights and justice. I think this is one of the very important aspects.
In Nepal, when we started human rights work, we were 3-4 people, because that time there was no any freedom of establishing any organization, the autocratic regime. So now there are thousands of new human rights defenders in one country, in my country. Like, it's nice to see all young people, and I have learned a lot. I was thinking that I am an experienced person, I know everything, but while coming in, then now I realize that I have to learn so many things.
It's a quote from Winnie the Pooh. If I'm not there, if there is tomorrow, I'm not there, you'll find me here.
Wow!
Thank you very much.
First, thank you to all of us, of course. Second, for the 2 happy, productive days. So take care everyone for now. Don't get sick. And let's gather around again in the next many years. Thank you.
I love the offer that has been put by Pax Romana. And I think it would be fantastic if we did an alumni thing, kind of thing, over 5 days, which includes games, it includes learning, it includes reflection, it includes a strategy moving forward. But we might want to, maybe this group's responsibility is to think of the bigger program, what we were originally thinking of, the Jamboree kind of thing. And maybe we can start, this group can trigger something like that, but this is not the story yet, kind of thing. But it's been great. It's been great 2 days.
I can hope that DTP will produce more generations of human rights defenders that we really need, because human rights protection and promotion and defense is a very important challenge for all of us, especially in Asia. Thank you.
It has given a good, way to know each other again. I know some of the participants who are here now, but some are new. So it's a good opportunity to know about their work and how we can contribute on the issue in the coming days. And we hope that we will have more meetings and discussions in the coming day. Thank you.
It made me to do something through the network. Actually, it was a great opportunity that you invited us here. Thank you very much for Patrick, Claire, and Bunkan.
All the training that I did with police, prosecutor, judges, and other sectors, human rights is the component that I will always include it there, because no gender sensitivity nor gender transformative without human rights. So that's the most important thing, and the intersection between trafficking, migrations, and human rights are very strong there.
DTP and ABP has a good collaboration and connection and relationship to organize a lot of this kind of advocacy campaign and also many programs every year. That's why DTP is always with us. Thank you very much.
It is really a little bit nostalgic to look back, 30 years, my personal, at the same time, whole movement. I hope I can contribute to what I learned from DTP to other human rights defenders.
Many started to use the YouTube and other media platforms to sharing thoughts and other issues, but they also need a direction, a guidance, and instructions from our side. So definitely DTP can do more. Whatever you did for the last 30 years, not the coming 30 years, it's different. So thanks very much.
I think we come out of this 2 days partly thinking, why didn't we do this before? I think, why did we wait so long? But we've been so busy, we're very focused, because we think the training is important. We've been very focused on just developing and delivering training. But the opportunity that you provided us with to sit back, to listen, to learn, to reflect, and then to think about, in the context of the current challenges, what should we be doing? How do we build on what has been done? How do we keep thinking about doing things differently? Because some of the things we've been doing haven't been working. So I think we come out of this with a very strong sense of things that we should be doing, we could be doing, we must do.
Country